Welcome to episode 35 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast for sharing tips, apps, and gear for iPhone and iPad, along with related technologies that get us using iOS in a fun, productive, and meaningful way. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and I am thrilled to have join me tonight is Mr. Chuck Joyner from Mac Voices. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I'm just absolutely thrilled you're here. If anybody doesn't know, Chuck was a little bit of my inspiration when it came to podcasting. I've been doing podcasts for about 2 years now, so I'm a newbie. Chuck's been doing it for quite a long time before me. So, but I've always enjoyed his content on Mac Voices. But I could definitely say that he has been quite an inspiration for me to be doing this podcast. And I can't believe that I'm actually hosting a podcast and actually having you on it with me. So.
Well, I appreciate that. I saw you present at MacStalk the first year, and
yes,
we talked about it, and you just seem to be one of those guys that loves to share the information. Of course, with your involvement with user groups, that's evident.
Yep.
It seemed like the perfect venue, so we had to drag you into it.
See, you twisted my arm, and here I am a couple years later, got 2 podcasts so far. Who knows? There might be more coming. I don't know. But I definitely wanted to put that out there for folks, our listeners, on what inspired me to get this all started. So we have a pretty full agenda tonight. Wanted to talk a little bit about the news. We have a couple of news stories that piqued my interest. We won't go too deep into those, but our topics tonight are going to be the iPhone. You have the XS or XS, if some people call it, and I have the XS Max, and we're going to kind of discuss and compare our notes to see how we like it so far. We've only had it since Friday, right, of last week, since a while before we're recording this. So we'll have you'll have a little bit of we'll have some insights in that, right?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah. And then the Apple Watch Series 4, I have not purchased it yet, but Mr. Joyner does have it, which I'm not surprised, and I'm still holding out, but you know me, I'm gonna, as everybody knows, I will give in and end up getting it. So after this discussion, I probably be running out and ordering it later. So we'll see.
Don't I remember a situation where you thought the iPhone 8 was good enough, and then
it was good enough, and I went to the 10. Yeah. Everybody remembers that very, very finally, and I deserve that bashing, and but I don't think I'll do that again. Just like the HomePod, I ended up giving in, and now I don't know if you know that I have a HomePod now. So
okay.
But that was a little. Obviously, you don't have a chance to listen to every podcast, but the HomePod was a kind of a gift because the wife had some gift cards from Target, so that kind of helped me not pay as much for it. So. But I'm enjoying it too. So I mean, hey, you and I both love Apple products. We're part of the Apple community, and I got to keep it going. So
yeah, I think it's nice that you don't refer to it as addicted.
No, not at all. I'm not addicted at all. And then we'll spend the rest of the show on iOS 12. There's quite a bit of change, and got some good insights that relates to what they've done, especially legacy device support and speed improvements. And I've even got some feedback, some friends telling me that it's improved. So, well, anyway, let's go dig into some of the news stories that caught my eye. First one, and I think music is kind of a thing that we love with our Apple devices. SiriusXM is going to acquire Pandora for $3.5 billion. Did you happen to see this article and what your thoughts were on that?
Yeah, I did. I've been a Pandora fan for a long time.
Yeah, me too.
I don't use it as much as I used to. This was an interesting marriage. I can't decide.
Yeah.
I can't decide exactly what it means. The most interesting thing about it, though, is that Pandora apparently also has a clause in this deal where they can continue to shop themselves around, and if they get they can jump. So I don't know. Going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, SiriusXM obviously hasn't been, a prominent company for many years. I mean, they were losing money for many years. I mean, other than Howard Stern, they pay a lot of money for him. But they I never thought that they would be in the position to make a purchase as this big. So, but I mean, I'm serious. I'm subscribers to both. And SiriusXM has a lot of great music channels, and I think this is a nice complement as far as the music choices you'll have on both services. So,
I think it'll be interesting to see if Sirius uses Pandora to drive some of those music channels,
Yeah.
as far as the what the programming is.
Right.
I do not subscribe to Sirius.
Okay.
It's one of those things that's like, okay, I've got so much music from other sources that I haven't needed to, but I've honestly, I didn't think they'd still be around at this point, but they
I'm.
are,
They are,
and
and yeah.
and people that use it love it. So I give them credit. They found a
I do.
way to do some really interesting things that keep people coming back. So good for them, and hopefully Pandora can add to that and continue
Well,
to be its own thing as well.
more influenced SiriusXM is with my family, with specifically my wife. She loves having it in the car. A couple of the channels that they do, the blend is one of them. Has a nice mix of music, and she really enjoys it. So it's a nice thing. Who knows when we get a new car and CarPlay comes into play? Because we have we have Chrysler products or Jeep and Dodge, so you're stuck with the old services that they had before Uconnect. But I know the newer cars now have CarPlay. So I was in a car with CarPlay, and I was like, oh man, I want CarPlay bad. So you never know, because with me being a subscriber to Apple Music too, it definitely makes a difference. So
Yeah.
And then the other news story I think was also related to music was. Apple finalized their Shazam acquisition, and now it will be ad free. Which, wow, that is kind of surprising. I don't know if you think that, but Shazam was a great product. I mean, my gosh, what Shazam! I was using Shazam 10 years ago when it first came out, and it was the most exciting thing in the world was when you could put your phone up to a song and be able to find out who was singing it. So, what was your thoughts on this?
It seems like such a natural fit because
totally.
Apple has always postured themselves as being about music discovery, and this is what a great way to discover music when you hear something, whether it's in an elevator or a department store or anywhere. Hit the little Shazam button, and not only do you find out who it is, but you've got also all that information right on your phone, and if you want to buy the music there, you can. So this just seems like a no-brainer. Instead of trying to scratch that, instead of trying to encourage me to subscribe to a channel that maybe I'm really not into, this just says, hey, you cared enough about this to check it out, and now, by the way, we'll sell it to you, or we'll add it to your library as an Apple Music subscriber. So I think it makes perfect sense, and I wasn't that surprised to see ads not part of it. I mean, that ads would not have been, at least from where I sit, ads would not have been in Apple style. So
true. Yeah, I mean, Shazam, the ads were kind of annoying, honestly, because when you were, if you were using it, but popping up all these ads all the time. I think it's a smart move. I mean, what's it going to cost them? I mean, it's just another service that they're absorbing into their portfolio of all the other services that Apple's offers. So why not? I mean, it's and they'll incorporate it with Apple Music. So I mean, and then Apple Music is a subscriber-based service, so. I think it'll be fine. So no, but they are now officially part of Apple. It is completed, and very soon they will stop putting out ads on Shazam. Other news story, and I was not at all surprised about this, is the iPhone XS Max has significantly outsold the XS, and the 256 model was the most popular, which I got. Which size did you get?
I also got the 256.
Yeah, 512 is insanity. I just cannot justify that price.
Well,
need for space, really.
Yeah, the only way that you would need that kind of space, I would think, would be if you were shooting a lot of 4K video. Then very much justified. But as a phone, yeah, you can stick a lot of photos and a lot of other things in 256 and still have a comfortable amount of room left.
Yeah. So, but I was not all surprised that the iPhone XS Max was selling well. I think that's what everybody was waiting for, and I honestly don't mind the size. I mean, I'm sure you put them next to each other when you made your choice and take a look at it, or did you?
Yeah, David, I had had a 7. Let's see, a 7. Well, the 7S, or now I can't even remember, but the large version of the 7 Plus, right? And when the 10 came out, of course, there was only one size, and I just discovered that while I didn't mind the larger size, and there were definitely some advantages for having a larger size, I got very used to having the smaller phone in my pocket, in my breast pocket of my jackets.
Sure.
And it just, if I'd gone with the Max, I know I wouldn't be unhappy, but I stuck with this one for a little while. And especially the one thing that to me was brilliant about this particular set of releases was there was no functional difference
Right.
outside of battery life, of course,
Right.
between the two. With the 7 and the 7 Plus, the camera and the image stabilization, I think, was the other thing
Right.
that distinguished it, and it pushed you to that larger size. There was nothing to push you here. You got to make the true choice of, I want this size or I want that size, but the function is the same. And I really applaud Apple for that.
Absolutely. And we'll touch upon our comparing our notes between the models here in just a little bit here on our topic. The last story that caught my eye was the fall detection feature. It's on by default if you're 65 years old or older. I found that to be interesting. I guess not everybody wants it turned on, but you have to go in and actually turn it on if you're not 65 years old, and it knows that based on all the data that you put in into the activity you have, as far as your birthday and all that. And then what you thought of that? It's just interesting, I guess I would say.
I would agree. I mean, listen, at some point you have to make some generalizations.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of 65-year and older that are very, sorry, that sounds terrible, but they're very spry. They're very, they have no problems. But, years are going to catch up with everybody. And
of course.
You got to draw a line in the sand. Hey, 65 is as good a place as 63 or 70 or whatever. No matter where they put it, somebody's going to take offense. So
right.
You just got to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, for those who've gotten the Apple, who have the Apple Watch, the fall detection feature is not turned on by default, so you'll have to turn it back on and go from there. So those are some of the news stories we wanted to talk about, and let's move right on and talk about our initial thoughts about the iPhone XS and XS Max. So what is your thoughts so far about the phone? I mean, you've had it since Friday, so we've only had it for about 3 or 4 days. So
yeah, first of all, I'm really liking it, and
yeah.
I want to try to restrict my comments to the phone as opposed to the new version of iOS.
Right.
But I feel like the phone definitely, and I don't know if this is a function of the phone. I think it is because of the chip, but it definitely feels snappier. Again, every iteration seems to feel better, and it feels snappier. It feels good. The standout thing, of course, is the camera. Side-by-side photos seem to be really, really nice. But when I started taking photos with it, even though it was not the nicest weather here in central Pennsylvania over the weekend,
right,
they're just better. I'm not a student enough of photography to know exactly what's better about them, but I just know they look better. Not that the 10 looked bad by any means, but this just looks better because of larger sensor and some of the computational photography aspects of the new HDR that are built in. If you're looking to take the optimal photos, yeah, you need to get one of these phones,
right?
If that's going to be your main camera.
Oh yeah, the camera is incredible. I mean, I think it's got a very nice, clear picture. I mean, I definitely can tell a difference between the 10 and the 10s, the 10s Max with the camera quality in itself. I mean, you've taken pictures as well as I have, and wow, what a difference as far as the quality, huh?
Yeah, and you don't want to sell it too hard because I kept looking at mine thinking, okay, is this confirmation bias that, oh yeah, I just spent all this money on this phone, so obviously the pictures look better. Sure. But I think there is an objective difference that you can see.
Yeah, and the chip that's in there now is the A12 Bionic, and it is a very powerful chip. I mean, it just to take advantage of things like the augmented reality. A lot of other things. I know a lot of people aren't going to be probably tapping much into augmented reality right now because it's still pretty new, and not everybody's gamers and light into that stuff. But the dual camera system in itself, as far as talking about the camera, going back to the camera, I mean, it definitely has some advantages when it comes to that. So, but again, now we go down to size. You preferred the 10s, and I looked at the 10s, and it's exactly the same size as the 10. And yeah, you had it. I mean, I had the 10, but I also had the 8 Plus, and I also had the 7 Plus. So,
right.
So I was used to those large sizes. So I went down to the 10 because We just talked about beer before the show. I went from the 8 Plus to the 10 in a 2-month period. But I do like the 10. I mean, the 10 was a very nice phone. I mean, the size was okay with me. I was used to it. I mean, we had it a little under a year. So, yeah, I'm liking the size.
Yeah, and I've seen the Max, and I have to say, if I'd gotten that, I'd be happy with that too.
Right.
I don't have any huge regrets that I didn't go that direction.
Yeah.
But it's I think it almost comes down to just practically, almost in some cases, what kind of clothes you wear and how you carry your phone.
Right.
Some people love it in their front pocket. Some people love it in their back pocket. Some people just walk around with it in their hand. So whatever suits you. There is no bad choice here.
Right. No, I agree. Both phones are great. Now, again, I'll get people who have asked me, do I really need to upgrade? I have the 10? Is the 10 okay? Yeah, the 10 is fine. I mean, I think if you have the iPhone 10, majority of the people, unlike you and I, would not probably upgrade. They'd probably be happy with it and maybe spend another year with it. And because especially if you're on the upgrade program or if you financed it, you could do it for 2 years. So you're paying it, for two full years. Then you decide at that point to upgrade. For those who've had the 8 or the 7, or even going back even further, oh yeah, there's no question. I think it's a very worthy upgrade. Going all the way back to the 6, 6S. I mean, I still see people with 5s and 5Ss. So, definitely, I think it's a worthy upgrade for sure.
Yeah, I think you have to ask, just like you do with desktops and laptops. You have to ask folks what they want to do, and how mission critical those tasks are. If you're just looking to do casual web surfing or email, 5, 6, 7, 8, they're all fine. They perform a little better the later models you get. Right. But at the end of the day, you and I like to push the edge. We like to try out all the new stuff.
Of course.
And, that's just what we do. And so that's fine. But again, these are all fine machines, and the power that they put in your hand is just absolutely staggering.
Agreed. Now, the one model we didn't talk about, and which we don't know about because we don't have yet, is the iPhone XR. Now, the XR is a very similar to the XS. It does have a slightly bigger screen, though, the 6.1 inch, and same camera, but it's not dual, and has all the other stuff that's in it, as far as the differences go. But you are looking at price difference of about $200. What was your thoughts on that? Because we won't know anything about it until we see it, in the live and when other people have it. So,
well, this is an interesting evolution, an interesting choice Apple made, because this is the step up from the 8,
right?
But it's not that much of a step down from the 10s or the 10s Max,
other than the camera.
But some of the camera features are still there too. It just you don't have that dual lens. So this is almost like the flip side of what I was saying about the 7 earlier, where they forced you to make a choice. Here, there are a couple small differences, but they're not forcing you to make that much of a choice.
No, not at all.
But you can save a couple $100 and maybe throw that toward extra memory if that's what you need. Yeah. So you're right. We haven't seen it, but I think it plays well at that upper end of the spectrum where Apple loves to play.
Yeah, and I think for sure that XR is going to sell crazy. I mean, once it comes out in the market, we have another month, a little less than a month to go yet before it's on pre-order. But I definitely think Apple was smart, because I think they were getting some bashing about the high cost of the XS and the XS Max. I mean, the very high end of the XS Max is $1,500. I mean, that's a lot of money for most people. Again, most people are not paying for it outright. They're doing financing. I'm part of the Apple Upgrade program every year, so I do that. So it's costing me, $40, $50, or $60 a month, depending on the phone. So, that's one of the things I want to stress to the listeners is, it is an expensive phone. There's no question about it. That XS Max. But you really have to make that decision based on what you can afford and what you want. And we want these phones. So
yeah, and let's not overlook the fact that the XR will come in colors.
And that's colors too.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that doesn't mean much. We're kind of happy having a choice between the gold, the space gray, and whatever, silver, I
Space
guess.
gray is my color. I always go with that. So.
Yep, same thing here. But there are a lot of people and especially younger people, kids, pick your how you categorize them, but that is important to them. They want that color phone. They even more so than just customizing it with a case.
Right.
And so this is meant, I think, for a much different audience, but it's still an iPhone and still delivers that iPhone experience.
Yeah, and you've got what is it, 6 colors, including the product red, and there's a coral as well as a yellow, which are unusual colors that I've not seen on an iPhone before, and then the standard black and the white. But there's also a blue too. So yeah, so they really, I think that's going to appeal to all of the fashion folks out there who like to have a phone that's got a little bit different color. But they did add the gold. The gold was gone for a while I believe in the iPhone 8 there was limited colors too. So you have silver black and I'm sorry, silver space gray and gold on the 10s and the 10s Max. So,
And I have to wonder what influence Angela Ahrendts had in this.
I bet a little.
Yeah, well, you would think so, because this is not a compromise phone like
Yeah.
the previous lower end model was. I mean, let's face it, it was a bit of a compromise, and yet folks loved it because they didn't need the high end or features, or at least maybe they wanted them, but they didn't need them, so they didn't buy them. They preferred the color.
Right.
And so now the colored iPhones, if you will,
Yeah.
don't represent nearly as much of a compromise. And so, again,
Right.
this is a bit of a nod to Apple's fashion sense and Angela and what she's been trying to accomplish. At least that's a speculation on my part.
No, I agree with you, and I see it in the Apple stores too. They definitely she's made quite a inspiration and change to not only the style and design, but colors, but the stores too. So I mean, I definitely think she's got some influence on all these areas. So
yeah.
And then again, I said the 10R is got a slightly bigger display. It's 6.1 inches opposed to 5.8 inch on the 10s. It is a liquid Retina HD display versus a Super Retina HD display. So there's the little difference there as well. Is the display? Will you notice a difference? I bet most people won't. But yeah, it does have that. So
yeah, I'm anxious to put those two side by side.
I'd be like to see how it looks
and see just how much of a difference it is, because once again, these screens are getting so good.
Yeah.
No matter what the technology is, some are going to be a little brighter, but I have to wonder if it doesn't turn into that thing where you go to the big box store and you can definitely see a difference between the TVs until you get it home, and then it's like, yeah, it's great in my living room, and
that's right,
exactly. The lower end one at the store, but it's perfectly fine for me.
But and then the display sizes, the 10s is a 2040 2436 by 1125 pixel resolution. It's got the same PPI of 458 versus the 10s Max, which is 2688 by 1242, so it's slightly bigger, but the same PPI. So it's not the difference. And the contrast ratio is where they're 1,000,000-to-1 contrast ratio on both of our model phones. And then the 10R is going to be only a 1,400-to-1 contrast ratio. Again, I think most people who want an iPhone and want to get into the iPhone, and they don't want to go backwards by looking at the 7, because you could buy the 7 right now. That's what, $449. So it's a tremendous amount cheaper. So going up to this model might inspire more people to purchase it. But I know Apple's been, what really caused the delay, I think, was the displays. Is getting the displays and being able to meet the demand of the product. So they decided to delay it. So
yeah, agreed.
I think that was good info about the phones, and I think we're both happy as far as our phone use. And
yeah, if I can, one other point though that I want to applaud Apple for is that they didn't gratuitously make any big changes that demand that you buy new cases.
Yeah.
Some of the cases, the camera bump is a little bit different and a little bit bigger. So depending on the tolerances of the case that you have now, if you had an iPhone 10, the odds are that you'll be able to use it. There are going to be a few it will infringe on the camera, but I thought this was great that they didn't just go out there and make a wholesale change. There's some practical reasons they probably didn't too, as far as the manufacturing process. But I love the fact that I could take. In fact, all the cases I use, I haven't found one that bump, the extra little bit of camera bump has made a difference on. So
yeah,
again, I think they're thinking a little bit more about some of these things, and now next time maybe change the whole thing. but hopefully for good reasons, not just because they can.
Right, exactly. And then your iPhone 10 case did fit the 10s without a
Yeah,
problem, or?
I've got 3 different cases I use, and they all fit. Didn't no problem with the camera. They all fit just great.
Yeah, well, I didn't have that option. I had to buy
Yeah.
a new case, but I got a different color this time. I got the midnight blue instead of the black, that's which I always purchased before. So, and the silicone cases are still nice. That's what I have for my iPhone. I'm pretty happy with it. So, yeah, I agree with you. That's the one benefit you're going to have by sticking with the 10s. And if you had the 10, then you don't have to buy a new case. And speaking of that, even with the Apple Watch, you don't have to buy new bands either. And you have an Apple Watch Series 4. And did you get the cellular model?
I did not.
Good. I'm glad, because I think that's incredibly overpriced, and I just don't find me using the Apple Watch. I mean, I have the Series 3 right now, but it's the non-cellular version. It's GPS version, and I'm perfectly fine with it. I can still answer my phone from my watch, but I have to have my iPhone with me in order to do it. And plus, for those of you who want the cellular model, you also have to pay your carrier extra money too, as far as that goes too. It's been very kind of discerning that I don't think that it's worth the extra cost to get the cellular model. What are you liking about the watch so far?
First of all, the screen. I mean, I bought
And
the 44 millimeter screen, or size, I should say. And it's really amazing because not only is the watch a little bit bigger, but the screen or the display itself is so much larger because there's much less of a bezel. And I think that's the thing that strikes you the most. And especially if you use a couple of the new Apple Watch faces that allow you to put so much more information on there.
Yep.
It looks something out of science fiction because you've got all this stuff on there, and yet it's very readable, and it's logically arranged so that you know exactly what it is. And I think it's fantastic. Again, same thing. The speed, it feels just a little snappier, and I know this is a watch, folks. So but still, it makes a difference. The one thing that really, though, has jumped out at me the most is how much louder this watch can be.
Speaker.
Yeah. I mean, if and I'll be careful not to invoke her, but if I ask, hey, S lady, boy, I know she's right there, and there's no question about it. And so I really like that. I haven't had as much of a chance to work with everything as I'd like to, but I've started changing, playing with the complications and all, and I've only had one little hiccup. In fact, I just put something on Facebook asking for help if anybody knows. I've had no trouble getting any of the complications to work except dark sky. I cannot. The dark sky complication, and the app is on the phone, the app is on the watch. The app works on the phone, it works on the watch. But for whatever reason, the dark sky complication is not showing up in the complications list.
No matter what you do, huh?
Yeah, and I've uninstalled it, reinstalled it, and that didn't do it. So that is literally the only glitch I've had with anything. Other than that, it's just been an absolute pleasure. I was also a little concerned with the 44 being not only bigger on my wrist, but also maybe even a little heavier. But once I put my old watch band on and popped it on my wrist, and it's like, okay, it's a little bigger, and that's it. And I haven't noticed anything else.
Okay. Which model did you go with? You went to which color and band?
Well, the band was kind of a non-starter. It didn't really matter.
You have a large collection like me.
I got the sport band, but I've bought one of the original Apple magnetic bands, and that's the one I've stuck with the whole time. And then I bought a couple knockoffs, but I love the magnetic because it's so completely adjustable.
And it's stylish too.
Yeah, very. But I got 44 millimeter space gray.
Space gray. That's my color too. So I'm probably going to do that. I like those. The cloth band ones. I mean, I have one of those. And they do have the model with that. So I might do the space gray aluminum case with the black sports loop. Although I might not do that. That's the wrong one because that's too expensive. I think it's going to be the space gray aluminum with the black sports. Oh, I'm almost looking at the cellular. Okay, yeah, because that Yeah, that's the one I'll get because I like that band. I mean, I've got a gray one, and I was wearing it for a long time, and I now switched to the sports band. But like I said, we love our bands. We love switching to them, and I'm so happy that they didn't make the bands to everybody have to buy new bands. And that's again, kudos to Apple. And like you said, they could easily have done this and make more people buy stuff. But they've had a lot of backlash over the years when they do those kind of things. But now you can keep your bands.
And sometimes they have good reasons for doing it. I was really surprised and honestly a bit concerned when they said, okay, if you had a 40 millimeter watch before, the 40 millimeter band will fit the 44 millimeter Series 4.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, that sounds like a little bit of a kludge. I'm a little worried about this. But no, it looks like it was made for it. Absolutely.
Good. Yeah, I was in the Apple Store on Friday buying my case because I didn't, because I ordered my phone online. Did you order yours online as well?
Yeah, 3 a.m. Yep.
Okay, me too. But the nice thing was, since I'm in the upgrade program, I was able to have it all pre-ready to go in the cart, and all I had to do was push. I woke up and saw it was ready to go, and opened the Apple Store app and pushed the order, and half asleep. So we were able to do that. Did you order the watch the same way?
Well, you couldn't pre-order the watch, so you had
true.
to actually walk through the process. So I'm like you. I woke up, hit the button to pre-qualified everything, got it all done, hit the button, then went back and placed a second order for the watch.
Okay.
So I had 2 separate orders going. But yeah, it was probably the smoothest experience that I've had in ordering.
Yeah, it was
Pre-ordering things. Yeah.
So when I went to go buy the case, I got to see the watch in person. So I was like, that was my first impression when you open it up. Said, yeah, the display is just incredible. I mean, it's just I can't believe how sharp and clean the display is. It really is. It's very impressive. But I was at the store, bought my midnight blue silicone case, and I saw all the employees that I know were busy. I didn't want to bother them, and I look outside, and there's still a long line of people waiting to order stuff. So I mean, they weren't even letting people. If you wanted to get a watch, you had to go wait in line to be helped to order it. So, and because I asked the guy, "Do you have them in stock?" I was like, "Yeah, I do, but you have to go over and wait in that line." So I'm like, "Okay, I think I can wait." So.
Now, was that the Michigan Avenue store, David?
It was Woodfield,
Woodfield.
Schaumburg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's. I think that was pretty consistent from what I was reading from a lot of the stores that there were some lines. I don't think it was as crazy as it was in years past with people waiting in for 3 days to get a phone. So, but there were some lines. But any thoughts about the Apple Watch before we move on to iOS?
No, I think I do want to mention though that, and I've been talking about this a lot, that I feel like this version of the watch, the last one and this one, really are the two that cemented it. These have become very, very personal devices. They're not just watches anymore that run a few apps. They've taken the same kind of feel that the iPhone has. I mean, you feel lost without your iPhone. I now feel lost without my Apple Watch too. I'm so used to having not just the convenience of it, but all the features.
Yeah.
And with the new health features, I mean, we didn't really touch on those because I have not done an EKG on myself.
Yeah.
But using the Heart app and all of those, it's really interesting what has happened with this device, and I'm not sure that Apple really anticipated it going that direction. But it has, and that's where we are. So I would tell anybody and I'm sure you saw the story, not to steal anything off the news, that John Hancock now apparently is requiring some kind of health monitoring device for life insurance policies.
Oh, wow. No kidding.
Yeah. So I think Fitbit, Apple Watch, of course, there may have been one of the Androids. I'm sure there's one of the Androids.
Interesting.
But it just, that's a really interesting development. And we're back to that whole quantified lifestyle that now is being adopted by corporate America. At least this is the first company that I've seen it. But on the other hand, Aetna, and I think there were a couple others that were offering Apple Watches to their customers if you would agree to be tracked or agree to give so much information or meet certain exercise goals, and then you would not have to pay for the watch. Yeah. So everybody's recognizing the benefits of having this kind of data right there. could be an invasion or intrusion, excuse me, an intrusion into into our privacy.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's kind of like car insurance when they want you to have them to allow them to be able to monitor your speed. I mean, kind of similar to that. I mean, it's not obviously you're comparing a car versus your health, but one key thing I was going to I did forget to talk about the whole thing is the enhanced health on the Apple Watch with the EKG that's going to be available and the ECG, as well as this device is FDA approved. I mean, the Federal Drug Administration approves this device as being a health watch. I mean, that was a game changer for Apple.
Absolutely. We do need to make clear that when we say FDA approval, we're talking about the same kind of approval that you get for other
Right.
health things like
Right.
I think they were using the examples of blood pressure cuffs and birth control and home
Right.
pregnancy tests and those kind of things. So
Right.
it's not equivalent to what you see at the hospital when you go in and
No,
get
no, of
checked out.
course not. But
Yeah,
still, for being a personal device that someone can purchase, and the doors are going to open up even wider for Apple. I mean, they don't have it yet, but for diabetics, being able to measure your blood sugars, that's going to be the next thing I bet that comes out soon. They're already looking at that.
yeah.
And just the doors are now opened wide. And the EKG, of course, is not going to be available until later on in a software update. So so you won't be able to do that right away. But pretty cool stuff. So
Absolutely. And just makes the watch more valuable. I mean, so
oh, absolutely,
we've heard so many people, gripe a bit about the price of some of these things.
yeah,
And yeah, if it were any one of these devices, it would be pretty expensive. But when
right.
you roll it all into one and strap it on your wrist, not so much.
Yeah, I agree. So that's the Apple Watch. Let's finish the remaining time we have for our show today. Is just dig a little bit into iOS 12 and review some of the top features and improvements. The first thing that really stands out, I think, when iOS 12 just first came out. Of course, iOS 12 was released on I believe it was on Monday of last week, as we record this. And it was about 4 or 5 days before the pre-order for the 10s. Was it not? I think it was. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. So it's out. And the first thing that stood out was legacy device support. And being able to go back to the 5S, which is a device that's 6 years old, and still be able to get the latest OS on it is pretty impressive. And I can attest that the performance is pretty incredible. And I've talked to a lot of people, including my boss, who I work for. He has the 8, and I told him to install it right away. And normally he's one that won't do that. He wants to wait. And I said, no, you got to do this. The speed, performance, and the support is awesome. But going back to legacy device support, going from the 5S all the way up to the current models, pretty incredible, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, but again, that's nothing new for Apple.
No,
They deliver value, and I think as long as that they can make an OS that will reasonably perform on these devices and deliver the kind of Apple experience that they want. And when they don't, that's when that or security reasons seems to be when they sunset things
right?
and move on. Not a bad guideline if you look at it that way,
No,
because Apple is so invested in the experience. That's one of the key things they have to sell. And
right?
so, yeah, could they take an iPhone 3 or an iOS version 3 device
Yeah,
and build an operating system? Sure,
wouldn't
but
be a
it
good
probably would be
experience.
dog slow and probably have security holes all over the place. They won't do that.
Right. So the 5S still fits into that category, and I've talked to people who have the 6. I had a 6 that I installed it on. I definitely noticed a huge improvement in performance. So that's one good thing. Speaking of performance and speed improvements, yeah, I mean, I definitely noticed a huge speed improvement. I mean, of course, we both have newer phones, so of course the speed's going to be good. But even when I saw it on the 8 and the 8 Plus and the 7, I mean, and the 6, I mean, the speed is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I loaded it on a 6 Plus
Okay,
that I use for video work,
sure.
and was kind of surprised that yeah, there's definitely a noticeable difference there, and I'm kind of anxious to do a few tests and see if it erodes the battery life at all.
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about it for the use I have for it, but at the end of the day, yeah, maybe I'm hoping it's just optimized code, and that I won't lose any battery life.
Right, exactly. Couple other things they've added. This is kind of a combination. They group the stack notifications, which is pretty big, I think. It was kind of annoying when you would go through and get notifications, especially I get Twitter notifications all the time, and you got 1, 2, 3. They keep popping up. Now they're stacked. So if it's from the same person, it'll stack it, and any type of notification, no matter if it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever you have, and that's notifying you. So I don't know if you find that to be beneficial.
Yeah, it took me a little while to figure it out and like it. But as it is now, it definitely, when you see Twitter notifications or notifications from anything, it's nice that they're all there in one, and I can kind of rip through them and say, okay, now I'm done with that one. Now let's go over to this one and see what there is to deal with there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so they did a great job. And managing those notifications from the lock screen, they've improved that too. The screen time, have you played with that at all? Did you turn it off or?
I turned it off. Don't care. Screen time annoys me.
Okay.
It annoys me from the standpoint that I think Apple had to do this to take care of some of the pundits and the people out there that are saying, "Oh, protect us from ourselves." Grow up. You know, I'm sorry, folks, and don't send me emails. But
I have it on.
And manage your own time.
I mean, I have it on because I wanted to see what it did, but I'm probably going to be pretty close to be turning it off here pretty soon. So
yeah.
A couple other things, the do not disturb. They did some pretty good improvements with that. You can do it during bedtime and be able to adjust it on the fly, whereas before you had to go into settings and actually make the changes. So what time you wanted to do not disturb, turn on or off. I don't know if you utilize that that feature at all, or do not disturb in general.
Yeah, I use Do Not Disturb. I have not had a chance to play with this, but it will be nice, I think, to set be able to easily set different parameters, say during the work week as opposed to weekends, when I would like to have Do Not Disturb let me sleep just a little bit longer, because people keep calling me at ungodly hours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. You don't want that to happen. So, I mean, I have it turned on. The only time I have to turn it off is if I'm on call for work. So, other than that, yeah, I always have it on. I always have. So, the Photos app was reworked, so you can you have a For You tab, and it's got new algorithms to search and detect subjects, which I thought that was pretty interesting. I want to get deeper into that in future discussions, but they've added some pretty good enhancements in Photos.
Yeah, and they seem to be pushing the idea that you can manage manage the photos on your phone. You don't have to worry about going over to your Mac to manage them. I mean, the editing has been there for a while,
right?
But I think some of these things, you're right, are going to be very interesting to dig into. I haven't had a chance to yet.
No, again, we've had iOS not a very short time. So, speaking of the short time, Shortcuts, the Shortcuts app. Have you dove into that at all?
Not the Shortcuts app, but I have played with Siri Shortcuts in a couple apps that support them, and I've been blown away.
Yeah,
I just think it is so much better than some of the other devices that are throwing out, there's constantly adding new skills or capabilities that are really not relevant to much of anything. This lets me assign the commands I want.
Right.
Do I have to go and do it? Yes. But if I want to do it that bad, which is not that bad, it's pretty darn easy to set up, and I can set it up the way I want. And I really, really, really like that. I think this is going to be one of the killer features of this particular version of iOS. Yeah,
I agree. And then the Shortcuts app in itself was designed along the lines of the app that they had purchased about a year ago called Workflow. So they bought a Workflow, I think it was about a year ago, and that's what incorporated what the Shortcuts app is today. So they've discontinued the Workflow app, and it's now all part of the Shortcuts app. So the cool thing is there's all kinds of different shortcuts that you could do, like adding events to your calendar, downloading a YouTube video if you wanted to. They create a shortcut. They've got a lot of preset shortcuts. You could share screenshots. I mean, it's just endless is what you can do. I could probably spend a whole show just talking about what the Shortcuts app does. But our good friend David Sparks, did you see his new courses that he's got up now? He has I purchased it. It's great. It's the actual Shortcuts app. He's got about a 3-hour session on it. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did. I want to talk to David about that, but it's one of those things that I just have to put on my list of things to do because I'm
Right.
anxious to do it. David does such a great job
He
of
does.
walking you through things in a nice logical fashion. So in 3 hours, you'll be a shortcuts expert.
Oh yeah, and that's I got just purchased uh, the course, and I can't wait to spend the time on it. That's the hard part, is making the time for it. So, but I'm definitely going to have his link in the show notes so we can promote David's work. And he just went on I believe on OmniFocus, and then of course his great iPhone book I bought, and a lot of other great things. But yeah, definitely we'll check that out. And like I said, we'll have it in the link in the show notes. The share sheets icons. I mean, if you notice, they did redesign and update those. I think it's a lot cleaner than it was in the past. I don't know what you think.
Um, yeah, it's one of those cosmetic changes that I don't know that it. At least I haven't found that it adds a lot of functionality. But
No,
yeah,
but
to your point,
it's clean. That's
it's a polish.
what I came up with. Now, FaceTime, they were promoting being able to talk to 32 simultaneous people at once. That isn't enabled in iOS 12.0 as of yet. 12.1 is in beta right now, and I believe that is enabled, so it's coming soon. I mean, it would be interesting to have a conversation with 32 people in FaceTime. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of people to be in one session. I mean, we did it when you did the Mac Voices through Zoom. We had about 15 people, I think it was. And
Yeah.
It can be a challenge.
Yeah, David, I think this is going to be one of those newly acquired skills that we all
Right.
have to get. Learn how to participate in that kind of group. I mean, if you think about it, you can do that with at the local bar with 15 people standing around.
True.
Everybody kind of figures it out. This just changes the dynamic a little bit, but yeah, I too am looking forward to testing that out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The other thing is, did you create your Memoji when you had the iOS 12? Come on, I did.
It's one of those things. I'll get around to it.
I think they did a great job with it. It's a lot of fun. I was sharing it with some of my sister-in-laws, and they don't have iPhone 10, so they say, "How do you do that?" And so I started talking, and of course, you do the text where it puts your Memoji on your body, and sent that video, and it's a lot of fun. I think Apple has really come a long way with this, and made it a lot of fun to play with. I mean, they really made it a lot easier to send these things too through messages. And speaking of messages, I'm pretty impressed with how they improved the messages and its use, especially the camera. I really hated that version in iOS 11 where you were to go take a picture and it's got that small little screen that's sitting in there, and you're trying to, I'm going to take a picture with that, and let me just open it over into the camera, and now it automatically opens up. But then what they did was they added the feature where you can add effects into the photos right there before you send it to the person. So they really I think they really made some drastic improvements in messages.
Yeah, and I don't want to come off like a grouch. I mean, listen, okay. The emoji, the Emoji on the latest version, you try to right away, but I never could find really a compelling use. I mean, I will get around to playing with the Memoji.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. I understand, but I think they've had some fun.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of what Apple does is
exactly.
Just because it doesn't apply to me or I don't care, you might love it. I can think of several of our friends that probably,
yes.
That's all I'll be getting from them is Memojis. So great,
I'm sure Allison's going to send a few to you. So,
oh please, had to bring that up, didn't you?
I tried. Yeah, you're going to have some fun. So,
yeah.
So yeah, they really made some improvements in that. The control center, they made some improvements in there as well. I think I forgot the one feature that they added. I think I have my list here, but I did add it. They did add some extra settings that you can make changes to. I don't recall what that is. It's in our notes here, but they've made a few improvements in there, and that menu service in itself is pretty cool when it comes to that. So.
Yeah, and I want to mention too that some of the improvements on the iPad.
We talk about
changes. Yep. I think are very, very nice. You're going to have to relearn a couple things, but I found that it took me like 20 minutes, and I was doing it the new way with no trouble. So.
Yeah. And they've put the swiping in the iPad, so you technically don't need the home button. So that's kind of a hint that when the iPads are about to be announced, probably next month, that they're going away and going to put Face ID on that. So yeah, it does take a little getting used to. I mean, Don McAllister did it in Screencast Online when he did the demo. It does take a little bit of time to move move things around on the iPad. It does take a little getting used to. So.
Yeah, but I think it also depends on how much you use the iPad. I mean, just
Sure.
You use the phone all the time. If you use the iPad all the time, you're going to pick it up real quick.
Absolutely.
And the best thing is, it feels like it makes sense. Again, it's not
Yeah.
just something to change it. It
No,
feels like
no.
okay, the experience is more consistent, and the new moves make sense.
Yeah. So, let's see what else that they've improvements to the Stocks app. I don't know if you use the Stocks app, but
Oh yeah.
you can. So I think they've. What did you think? I mean, I think they've made some improvements there for sure. Made it a lot easier to look at stocks.
Yeah, I've always been a stocks app user. It seems to get a lot of criticism, but yeah, I like it. It puts that information easily at your fingertips.
They've added search by lyrics with music. I've tried it. It's pretty cool. I mean, you can do that with your HomePod too. So that's been a new feature added. The Face ID, and now you can add 2 different faces if you want to, or you can add, maybe you want to add your spouse or your friend, and then they can open up your phone too. So that was a bit of an addition, which was really nice. Makes things a little easier. The Podcasts app now supports chapters for us podcasters. So if you do chapters, that's a bit of improvement. We don't do chapters. I don't think. Do you do chapters on your podcast? I don't think.
No.
It's a lot of work, honestly. But it's available. Safari, now you can enable favicons. I know it's exciting. I want to see a favicon in Safari. So I threw a couple in here just to kind of chuckle at some of the things. But the Measure app, which is out, that's a pretty cool app. That's now included with iOS 12. I don't know if you've had a chance to use much of that.
I did. I played with it, and it's one of those things that you start to appreciate what AR can do for you.
Yeah.
And there are some real world applications as opposed to just some of the game demos.
Yep.
So I would tell anybody, go and check this out, because get your feet wet. If you're not out, capturing, I can't think of what are the things you go out and capture in AR, the game.
Oh yeah, I can't remember either.
Yeah, you too. It's I'm because again, just never meant anything to me.
Exactly, things not important to me either.
Yes, yeah, but this, it's like, okay, it may not be laser sharp just yet, but
right.
These are very early days, and it gives you an idea of maybe what can be done with it.
Now, I don't know if you've done this one. This is they did change it so you can actually change the name of your alarms. Have you tried that? Because what you can do is you can call it, like I say, hey, S lady, turn on sleepy time, and then it'll turn on your alarm for that particular time.
No, I saw that written up, but I have not tried it.
I did try it, and it's pretty impressive. I was actually impressed with that. So, it's they really we keep going. There's just so many. A lot of great enhancements they've added with iOS, and including iOS 12, including the performance. And I think we can't talk about that enough as far as performance goes.
Yeah, and you get the feeling that we're slowly being steered toward more and more of a voice interface, if you want it. Sometimes I worry about that working in an office situation or being in public. Are we all going to be talking to our phones?
Everybody. I mean, those of us who don't have an Apple Watch, and all of a sudden you start seeing people talking into your Apple Watch. Oh my God, it's like Dick Tracy. I got a Dick Tracy watch. So yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, just people are just. It's just changing a lot of the way we do things these days.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I've found Siri to be. Whoops. Okay, I almost.
As long as you don't use the first word.
Yeah. But I have found it to be game changing. That it's very, very convenient. I'm not sure it's essential at this moment, but it's pretty darn convenient. The more you use it, the more you start to really miss it when it's not there.
Right. I agree. One thing I'm so happy they fixed is not doing no more accidental screenshots with the volume up button. That was so annoying. I would do that all the time.
Yeah.
So they fixed that, because it was very easy to do it. It's like, God darn it. I kind of swipe it away again. And then all of a sudden where did all these screenshots come from? I didn't do these.
Yep, me too.
So, Any closing comments or thoughts about what we talked about tonight? I think we really hit a lot of great topics for this, and I think we're excited with the iPhone, the Apple Watch, and iOS 12.
Yeah, David, I would just tell anybody that, go and avail yourself of this. I mean, if you can afford it, if you need it, but even if you don't get the newest Apple Watch or the newest phone, definitely do the software upgrades to iOS and
for
on
sure.
the Mac Mojave. That's a whole nother discussion, but there are reasons that all this stuff is being done. It's just improving your experience and what you can do with these devices. And so if you're not taking advantage of it, if you're just using it as a phone and for email and web surfing, okay, but you really are missing out.
I agree. So with that, let's wrap things up. Chuck, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. It's just an absolute thrill for you to be here, and we had a lot of fun and a lot of great discussion.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's strange to be on this side of the microphone.
I know. I just like I said, I've been on your show so many times and many more. It's just I'm still just wow. I'm doing a podcast with you, and it's my podcast. I never thought. My dream has come true.
Well, God, I'm glad we could do that.
Yeah, me too. Where can everybody find you?
Two best places, of course, macvoices.com. You can see all the shows that I do and everything. You'll see David on there plenty, and in the past. I hope to have him back plenty in the future.
Absolutely.
And you can also contact me on Twitter as @ChuckJoyner.
Yeah, you've got a lot of great shows that you've done, and I really liked your review on the Bose Quiet Comfort 35 too. That's a great headphone. I have as I made my comment in the Facebook page that I've got the first version. I can't see much difference between the two. I mean, there really isn't much.
I think it's just the Google the Google Assistant and Amazon Hey Lady.
So I'm not missing anything.
Well, I didn't have yours, but I didn't see anything else that was.
I try comparing them because you know me. I gotta upgrade. I'm not $350 for a pair of headphones. Yeah, okay. But lots of great stuff that Chuck does. And again, I can't thank you enough for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
So everybody, thanks for listening, and we hope you are more in touch with iOS after hearing this episode. Subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcatcher and show your friends how to find us in the Apple Podcasts app, the Google Podcasts, the Stitcher Radio, and we're also on Spotify. If you want to email us any questions and comments, please do. Our email address is feedback@intouchwithios.com, or you can also visit our website at intouchwithios.com and click on the contacts or simply add a comment to the show notes. We're looking forward to bringing you more useful information in future episodes. I'm Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. And Chuck, where do we find you on Twitter?
Twitter @ChuckJoyner with an I.
All right. Very good. We hope you'll subscribe for future episodes, and thanks for listening.